Well, good morning to everyone. Appreciate everyone attending this 11:30 to 12:30 session. Successful implementation of EPA Tier 4 with SCR technology on the inland waterways in the USA. This is actually a panel that we've been doing for about 4 years now. So the progress that we've made during this journey is significant, and I'm very happy to be a part of this event. You know, last year was a virtual. It's really refreshing to be in front of an audience and engaging back here at the IMX 2021 show. So I hope everyone feels the same. So my name is Jim Munt. I'm the Territory Sales Manager for Caterpillar Marine. I'm the moderator, so I have the easy job ultimately. So I'm going to hand it off to my panel members here. But my first thing is I'm going to introduce the panel team. What I'd like to suggest is that we run through each of the presentations collectively. Run through the presentations collectively, and then open it up for a Q&A session. This is the part that is basically for all of us the most important part of the discussion. The presentations create the information sharing, but then hopefully at the end we'll have a good engagement interaction from the audience with lots of good curious questions for the panel. So first, I'm going to introduce Rich Kalaga. He's our Innovation Manager for Products and Operations Group for Caterpillar Marine. Well, first I'm going to introduce everyone then, Rich. I'll hand off the con. And then Swathan Kanalath, Managing Director of Blakely Boatworks. One of the exciting things about the discussions of the panel today, of course, is the United States' first line haul vessel, the MV Gretchen V. Cooper, which the Blakely Boatworks built here for the Cooper Marine Group Timberland Company. So they're going to talk a little bit about the building experience at the shipyard perspective. Then we're going to hand it over to Tony Odak, Chief Operating Officer of J.W. Stone, and this is about the discussions about the continuing capabilities in the supply chain for midstreaming of DEF supply for the SCR operations. And then we'll hand it over to David Reynolds, Managing Director of Economy Boat. He'll also discuss the capabilities with their network for the DEF supply. And then lastly, Matt Warren, Director of Maintenance for Cooper Marine and Timberland Corp., will talk about the experience, albeit it's relatively early with the MV Gretchen V. Cooper, with the experience that they've had so far in operations and with the crew, et cetera. So I think it's going to be a very good session, and again, look forward to everyone kind of engaging after the presentation content to ask questions of the panel. So Richard, appreciate it.
Okay, now I can step up, right? Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Jim. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. As Jim mentioned, my name is Rich Kalaga. My title is Innovation Manager under Caterpillar Marine. So my job involves road mapping engine technologies for the future, along with hybrid and electrification. So SCR technology has been a strong focus of mine in the past. And so I'm glad to provide this update for you from our view. So just as a quick refresher, what is our technology recipe? It's very simple. It's an improved engine. I call it a refined or an improved Tier 3 engine, and that's a value story that's generally been very, very warmly welcomed from our customer base for years now, right? I've spoken to this in private sessions as well when we were surveying the customer base on Tier 4, on your sensitivities, on your pain points, on your value chains. The reliability of the engine, its ability to stay operating whenever in any condition where a Tier 4 enabling component might fail or malfunction. The importance of maintaining that power and not having to deal with an engine derate or shutdown. Those have been paramount. And so that's been a very good story so far. I have some updated sales numbers for you that really, really are encouraging and speak to that, actually. So with respect to the other enabling technology, we took the engine, we improved it for Tier 4, cleaned up its oil consumption, little bit, improved the injection timing to allow the SCR to do its thing to reduce the NOx. And it's a very clean, very elegant setup, very easily serviceable. And perhaps arguably the biggest enabler here is what you see in the bottom of the screen, is this DEF dosing cabinet. And it's important because when it comes to SCR systems, there's a myriad of different approaches that one can take. One of those is open loop dosing, which in past experience, that's often led to problems with SCR. We've addressed that with a closed loop system that actively monitors NOx into the SCR and NOx out of the SCR. So we're optimizing the amount of DEF dosed into the SCR at all times. And so that's been very successful. We have a growing experience with it, a growing comfort level in the industry with it, and it's turning into a very good story here with now being comfortably several years into Tier 4. So just some numbers that help speak to this. Hopefully the colors work for you. I call it SCR technology by the numbers. So 316, what is that? Since 2015, this is the number of engines and after-treatment systems that we've delivered into commerce. And from our view, that is a very good story, and that number appears to be accelerating. There's a growing comfort with SCR supply chain, which you'll hear from our peers on the panel. There's a growing comfort with the engine or with the SCR installation on board the vessel, and we continue to become better as a company, better as an engine manufacturer to you. We're taking every conversation we have with you, using it as a learning experience to make our product better and to make our services better. 5% in the middle row. That's been the general experience so far. We've predicted it from development days back in pre-2015, pre-Tier 4 days. We estimated that in general, the engines will more or less consume about 5% of the consumed diesel ratio in DEF. And we have customer references that are underscoring this and supporting this. So it's just the confidence of being able to predict and help you plan what your DEF consumption rates have directly benefited our conversations. It helps us work with you in planning the onboard storage, how quickly you need to replenish, helps us understand your operating profile of your vessels. And so we've become a better company just by helping you watch those parameters. 5% on the bottom row. In general, this is a very general number because it does vary. There's some fine print there, but 5% general improvement in fuel consumption. And that number does vary with model and with engine rating and with application. It can be anywhere from 3 to 9%. But what we can confidently say is we have seen notable improvements in fuel consumption from pre-Tier 4 to Tier 4. And although that benefits you, the vessel owner, directly, economically, now with the increased focus on environmental and social governance, you might be getting investor pressure for how well you're advocating for the environment and what you're doing to improve your environmental credentials. The saved fuel consumption from Tier 3 is also directly proportional to a CO2 reduction. So again, every engine that we deliver, we feel that we're helping clean the air, we're helping you with your environmental credentials, and helping you elevate your environmental responsibility for your customer base. And so when you collect all of the operating experience with SCR for Caterpillar as a corporation, not just Marine, this is a pretty substantial number. We've amassed over 84 million hours of operating experience with SCR. And that is a large number. It may be difficult to kind of comprehend in practical reasons. But what that tells me is that we have enough significant operating experience here to be your partner for the long term. Not just say goodbye after the engines and after the engine transaction is finished. Not just say goodbye after the vessel is commissioned, but be there with you every step of the way in your operation. We have our Caterpillar dealers are very well trained. Their expertise continues to grow with each experience, and we have a solid support system for you going forward, and we have new technologies on the horizon as well to help elevate your, to help improve your value chain as well. So, what have we learned along the way? We take the view of we can never be perfect. We can always do something better for you when it comes to Tier 4. We've done a lot of surveying of our customers, shipyards, naval architects over the years, and we've taken those voices and we've taken them to heart. And so we're taking every single voice and we're reconciling it with what are we hearing today with each experience? What went wrong? What can be done better? What should stay put? What should not change, right? And so all of the bullet points that you see here are these are real tangible efforts that we're making to help you in every single way. And we're never going to stop, especially as we start to expand our offerings with respect to remote monitoring and diagnostics. They're going to complement what we're doing here today and make sure that we're your value-added partner for the long term. So any questions that you ever have, you have a Caterpillar dealer within reach who's a phone call away, and you have Caterpillar factory personnel that are ready and willing to engage on every single project, whether it means just for technical support here up at the initial stage, but virtual design reviews. We will work with you and put together a CAD arrangement of your system. We'll import your vessel general arrangement drawings to help you fit the SCR, to help you plan the DEF tank. It's from cradle to grave, and it's our permanent business plan going forward. And it goes all the way down, not just to dealer training, but to training your mechanics and your electricians on board so that you can troubleshoot easily and you can maintain the vessel without even having to call a dealer at times. So I think that's my last slide. I don't know how.
One more forward, that'll come up there.
One more forward? Yeah. Thank you for your time. I'm going to hand over the mic now to Swath.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's well today. I'm Swathin Kanalat. Everyone calls me SWAT for short. And I'm with Blakely Boatworks. Wanted to firstly thank Kat and IMX for actually the invite and letting us participate in this session. Wanted to quickly give you an overview of our experience with the installation of Tier 4 engines and the items that we learned and things that we would like to pass on and share that experience. Firstly, just to give you an overview of who we are, we're Blakely Boatworks. We're located in Mobile, Alabama. We've got very easy access to the intercoastal waterways, the Tennessee Tom Bigby, and also the Gulf of Mexico. At our facility, we've got a 1,900-ton dry dock and a 660-ton travel lift. We have the capabilities to work on up to 15 vessels at any given time. We also have 4 fabrication shops fully undercover that we can work vessels in. Our goal as a shipyard is trying to provide a full service for our customers. We want to be a one-stop shop to everyone that comes into our facility. We've found out that customers and projects go a lot smoother if we've got a lot of these facilities in-house itself. So we're not contracting outside vendors to do as many of those items. So within our facility itself, we do have a full steel structural ABS welders. We've got a full pipe department. We do all our in-house blasting and painting. We have carpenters in-house that build for new construction and repair. machinists. We've got our engineers in-house, warehouse that takes care of all supplies, shipping. We also have engine technicians who are capable of working on Caterpillar, John Deere, Cummins, and so forth. Our own electrical department that handles all new construction and repair projects as well. We do exhaust insulation, HVAC, have technicians who can do hydraulic steering systems, and also we do all our troubleshooting and electronics installation on all vessels. So just wanted to give you an overview of, from our side as a shipyard, what we try to offer and value from all in one facility. Going into our new build program, we actually have a couple of milestones that we as a yard are very proud of and are happy to be associated with. We were actually the first vessel, or we actually constructed the first vessel to receive a COI since the implementation of Subchapter M. That was a great learning experience from our side to learn through the process of the paperwork side and get that vessel successfully delivered. We're also, as Jim alluded to earlier, the first yard to successfully construct the inland push boat with high-speed Tier 4 engines in the nation. So that's something that we're glad to be associated with from a yard's perspective. Sliding on to the next slide, we have the Gretchen V. Cooper. This is a Tier 4 vessel that we constructed. When this project first started, as a yard, we were very excited about this challenge. Our team worked very closely with our local dealer, Thompson Cat, and our naval architects to come up with a plan of how to best implement and install the system in our vessel. We had two main priorities. The first is the ease of installation, and the second is the ease of maintenance down the line. We wanted to find a way to get all this equipment in a centralized location so it would help, and for a shipyard point of view, to be more efficient with the installation of the piping. Our solution, we increased the height of the upper engine room so we could actually fit the urea tanks and the CEM above it. We raised it by about close to 20 inches from what the normal design is. So as you can see in the slide, we have two urea tanks on the port and starboard side. Right above that, we have the CEMs located. The urea tanks were sized for about 10% of the fuel capacity. In between the urea tanks, we put our transfer skid. In front of the urea tanks, we put the dosing cabinets. So essentially what this did with having all the equipment so close to each other, it actually made the piping go very, very smoothly. It was a very fairly efficient and simple process from the yard side. And what this actually does is, so you've got the two urea tanks, as you can see, they'll feed into the transfer skid that's located in between. From the transfer skid, it then goes to your dosing cabinets, and the dosing cabinets are placed in such a way that they're just below the injection ports for the CEMs. And all our return fuel piping, it worked out very well from our side. So in the end, what started off as a fairly daunting, challenging project turned up to be a very smooth installation. Our new construction supervisor and our pipe foreman in the yard actually came back and said, this was not as hard as we thought it would be. A lot of this comes down to planning and preparation. We sat down with our cat dealership, Thompson Cat, and had multiple meetings to review drawings, whether it was through a phone call or whether they would come to our facility to actually go through the installation process with us. And we did this multiple times to make sure we were all very smooth, we were all very comfortable with the process. We also had, essentially we had great support, and I think that played a big part into our successful implementation of Tier 4. We wanted to share our experience with this, and we want to take that, build upon this, and use it on any new future upcoming projects that we can build upon. And that's kind of our experience with Blakely. And a lot of this, as I said before, comes down to planning and preparation and getting the right support, which we had. And once you do spend enough time on this, the installation was not as hard or as challenging as we first thought. That's all from Blakely. I appreciate your time. I'm going to pass this on to Tony. Thank you very much, guys.
Gotcha. Yeah. So good morning, everyone. My name's Tony Odak. Can y'all hear me, Marco? Great, great. So Tony Odak, I'm the COO at John W. Stone Oil. I don't know how many of y'all know who Stone Oil is. I'm going to say a few do, a few may not. Nevertheless, you're going to wonder, why is a fuel midstreamer, fuel provider up here talking about SCRs? Look, we're really agnostic. Truly, whatever the technology is, whether it's the SCRs or the EGRs, whatever that technology is, but we're out there. We're not socialist. We're capitalist. If we can make money at it, so I'm gonna just put that to rest. Any distributor out there that says that they won't deliver this stuff, believe me, give me a call. I'll make it happen. I'm in the business of making money. Again, this is we just took kind of a picture on the inland river system. Folks that are supplying now, there are others as well. We just couldn't get the clearance to put them on, but you'll hear from David here shortly. But Stone's doing it, Ergon's doing it. We recently heard that Custom, a division of Ingram Barge Line, is doing it. So it's prevalent everywhere. I've assisted some folks on the East Coast and the Gulf Coast in obtaining it and making deliveries, some stuff on the West Coast, and including Panama. So it's readily available. It's been used, the guys haven't mentioned it, but this technology has been used for years and years and years in trucks, over the highway trucks. So this is not new technology. It's a little bit of development, the way we see it when it comes to the marine side, but it's there from the supply chain standpoint. It's readily available. What I will talk to you about is typically on the road, you've had 32.5% solution. So that solution was a very highly pure urea solution, the remainder being water. Currently, what we are providing, Stone covers, Baton Rouge, south on the Mississippi River, and with a recent acquisition, we're now in Channelview and Galveston. And we also have a blend plant that is blending the urea. We've chosen, from a marketing standpoint, to stick by 40%. Our argument, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, happy to have a conversation with everyone. We've chosen 40%. Our thought process in that is, why push around water? You know, that's really what it is. A hair difference in price, but a denser product. And I think Caterpillar, I think some of the other engine manufacturers, they've got smart enough technology that can sense the solution that you've got in your tanks and dose it accordingly. I wanted to talk to you about, there are some issues with some folks that are going out. You can't just buy urea. You can't buy farm-based urea, blend it with general water, and out the door you go with a DEF solution or urea solution. These are just some of the compounds and what it takes in a 4,800 bobtail, what it takes for a 4,800 gallon bobtail to be contaminated. You're talking about 1/10 of a teaspoon. So the purity of what your feedstock is to blend this component is really critical. It gets back to, you can see on the right-hand side here, or on y'all's left-hand side, the contamination that can be due from impurities. Let's talk about handling. There's been some talk in the industry. We've been doing this. Stone has been doing this since 2011. So the first SCRs that CAT actually put out to icebreakers, the IVIC that went up to work for Shell in Alaska, those had monstrosities of SCRs. They were first generation, I would say, but we started delivering back then, and handling was not a problem. Typically, generally speaking, again, I'm giving you all a very good overview. What I give our truck drivers, our tankermen, the same PPE that they would use to deliver diesel, that's the same PPE that they should use when delivering DEF. It's not dangerous. I mean, I can go into some very gross detail on what it is, and I'm happy to do it one-on-one, but it's essentially urea. So read between the lines what that is. You know, if you feel that you need goggles, you need a face mask, you want rubber gloves, whatever it may be, for diesel, that's what you should be using for urea as well. It's not something to be scared of. It's basically fertilizer. Again, I said we've done this back to 2011. This is a little bit of a dated slide, but we did some initial fills on the BISO boats down around the river of recent. We can do bulk deliveries. We've got the upper middle photo is one of our dedicated barges. It's got a bulk 8,800 gallon tank of urea on board, and then we've got the barge in Baton Rouge. It's built with tote tanks loaded on there, picking up the heavy lane, a couple of BISO boats. But it's been around, folks. I don't want y'all to be scared of it. It's the technology that's coming. There are just horsepower ranges that can't meet this Tier 4 requirement, and there's just nothing else out there other than the SCR. That's all I've got. Look, I encourage you all to ask some questions. I wanted to fly through this, kind of give you an overview, but I encourage you all to ask some questions. There's some very, very intelligent and knowledgeable panelists up here. I think in the crowd I see some folks that have got some experience, so as much as I can, I encourage you to ask some questions. At that, I'm going to turn it over to David with Economy Boat.
Thank you, Tony. Jim, thanks for the chance to be up here again and talk with everyone, and to Waterways Journal for the chance to be live and in person, which is great. So my name's David Reynolds with Economy Boat Store, the legacy brand of what is now Pilot Thomas Logistics, launching this week really under the PTL Marine brand. So representing all of that. And I think like Tony said, when it comes to DEF and being a service provider and a supplier for the waterways, it's really about reliability ultimately. And we've kind of broken that down into three facets: capability, availability, quality control, and all of those things kind of coalesce with what's most important in terms of our relationship with you guys. It's being a trusted and reliable supplier. And so, like Tony mentioned, DEF is readily available. You can see across the United States there, our network. The blue locations are really the PTL Marine umbrella. We service the inland waterways, of course, the Gulf Coast, and also the U.S. West Coast, so truly coast-to-coast distribution. We've got an integrated supply chain all the way up to direct contacts with the manufacturers. The Pilot brand is the same as Pilot Flying J, the truck stop and travel center business, who's actually one of the largest manufacturers of DEF across the country, where it did come into the trucking industry at a much more rapid and accelerated pace. So we're very comfortable with the solution, very comfortable with the distribution of it, and making it readily available. So the capability is very much there in place. From an availability standpoint, kind of highlighting on the inland waterways, as that's really what we're here to talk about. We've got access to both the 32.5% and 40% urea solution. We've got that available in drums and totes. Our deliveries up to this point have been done via totes primarily. We've serviced on the inland side some canal vessels, certainly Cooper vessels in the Cooper fleet on the West Coast, Washington State ferries, Kirby offshore, False Maritime, et cetera. And so as the demand has increased and continues to increase, certainly the suppliers or the distributors will be able to service you guys when and where you need it. From a bulk standpoint, kind of here last year, I think a lot of things sort of went on hold. We've got the concept designed and in place to make that available on our fuel flats or our delivery delivery barges. Not something we've actually put in place at this juncture, kind of waiting a little bit of the chicken and the egg there in terms of when and where we need it. But up to this point, we've been more than capable of supplying our customers via totes primarily as the delivery option. Quality control, kind of the final component here, as Tony mentioned, very sensitive to chemical impurities. DEF does require specific or dedicated equipment in the forms of tanks, pumps, hoses, etc. It requires stainless or poly tanks. There is an aspect of freezing, certainly that this product is susceptible to. Not really an issue, maybe with the exception of the farther northern parts of the Mississippi River system. You might see that being an issue in St. Louis or Wood River this last year. Maybe you would have seen that in Memphis or even Houston as well. So there are a couple of challenges there, but again, we're more than capable and equipped to manage through that. We talked about the blend rate earlier, kind of in the 3 to 5% range, and most of the DEF, we've generally found that it's got about a one year shelf life in terms of being readily available. So, lastly, just in closing here, kind of the reliability function. It's there when and where you need it. Certainly with the network of distributors that are out there, not only for PTL Marine, but also the great brands that Tony mentioned as well. You should have confidence, a comfort level that this product is available to serve you and your needs and keep your vessels moving. So that's all I've got. Matt, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. I'm Matt with Cooper Marine and Timberlands, Director of Maintenance, and this Gretchen Cooper is one of the boats that I'm responsible for the maintenance on. Right now, I'm going to start out with some real-time data on the DEF to fuel burn ratio. I think earlier it was mentioned about 5%. This is real numbers from last week. One engine, or both engines, I just put one engine's worth on here, but we had about 1,261 run hours, 45,000 gallons of fuel burn, and 2,400 gallons of DEF. Puts us at about 5.2% over the life of the boat right now. So we push 8 barges max and up and down the 10 tom. Our farthest trip has been from Mobile to Cairo, Illinois, and they just returned from that trip. So pushing upriver, obviously it's probably at 80-90% load, and coming down river a whole lot less than that. We were trying to get what our average load factor is, but I haven't been able to nail that down yet. I'm sure as time goes we will learn that. So the boat has a 42,000 gallon fuel capacity, 4,200 gallon DEF capacity. So that gives us a pretty good pad, so we don't have to worry, if we need fuel up north and we can't get our hands on it, which these guys assure us that we can get it at any time, we're not going to be in trouble. So that moves me on to the training and maintenance and learning curves here, and brings up Thompson Cat. They had their engineers and their electricians and technicians come in with my crew, one-on-one Q&A, nothing formal. Spent several hours in the engine room, on shore power, going over everything. One of the crew's most major concerns was what happens if this DEF system, what happens if it quits working? What happens if I run out? Do my engines derate? Do they shut down while I'm going through a bridge? Answer to that is no, they do not. The engine is still the engine. It's the same engine. The DEF system is separate. If it totally goes out, my engine's still performing and doing what and still reliable. So that was the biggest concern of the captains and pilots, crew members. So we were assured of that. The we did have some false alarms early on, just a couple of days into it, and that was able to be troubleshot over the phone. And then we had one real alarm, a suction filter restriction alarm, and the crew ended up calling us. We looked at it on this remote fleet vision, got the codes. They were able to clean some strainers on the transfer skid. The alarm went away for a couple hours, then came back. Then we got with Thompson, and they sent a guy up, and they ended up doing a minor adjustment on the transfer skid pump. And since then, so that was 100 miles into our first trip, and since then we haven't had any more issues. As far as maintenance goes, we don't know right now. The SCRs are supposed to last lifetime of the engine overhaul, and we'll continue to monitor it and go from there. So there's really not a lot to say around the maintenance part of it right now because it is so new. But we did early on had a couple alarms. They were resolved quickly. Crew is pretty comfortable with the system now that they've been running it. They hadn't had any real major issues at all. And that's pretty much it for me because we don't have a lot of maintenance history right now.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks.
Well, I'd like to give our panel presenters a round of applause, please. And now I would like to open it up to the audience for the Q&A session. And please, we encourage asking any questions to any of the panel members, and we will address those. Any questions? Any starters? Quiet group? All right, well, maybe I'll ask a question. Oh, please.
Let me.
Yeah, you can talk, Rich.
Oh, it's on. Just to repeat the question, the question is what kind of, I think the question is what kind of NOx conversion efficiencies are we seeing across the SCR? And I'm gonna throw out a number. I have some Caterpillar colleagues in the front row here. I'm gonna bounce it off of them, but I think about 85% is the general target. So whatever NOx are coming out of the turbo, they're being reduced. Generally, like you said, it varies with the operating point. But generally, 85% is a safe estimate for that. Okay, so that question, I don't know, Alan or Sam, if you'd be comfortable answering that one. I don't have that information for you today, but just to repeat the question, is the question was how do the maintenance needs differ for the dosing cabinet and the SCR? I presume you include your question includes SCR catalysts in there as well. So the SCR catalysts are designed to go all the way through engine overhaul without having to replace them. And the dosing cabinet does have moving parts, so there's a diaphragm pump in there, which is a serviceable item, and we provide the hours of operating time before those components need replacement, but we provide all the service components for that dosing cabinet as well. Is that fair? Good point, Sam. We try to align the maintenance intervals on those Tier 4 enabling components with the traditional engine maintenance intervals. Thanks, Sam.
Other questions?
So just to repeat the question, what is the smallest engine horsepower-wise that's in the pipeline to get Tier 4 next? The C32. 800 horsepower is the cutoff. Thanks, Alan. Got a question in the back?
So, great question. So, just for everyone, the question was, what are the items that we learned from the installation of the system? I think overall, we spent a lot of time before we installed any of the items to make sure we ran through as many scenarios as we could. And our goal was to get everything as close as possible. So, from a learning point of view, and things that we want to continue to keep doing is to have continuous conversations with the naval architects and the local CAT dealership. We shared several drawings back and forth during every change, during every implementation to get their feedback, make sure that they were our placements, our height levels, where our transfer skid was, where our dosing cabinets, our running lengths. Overall, if there's some things that we would change on the next build, to answer your question, I think we would, that upper engine room space, we would probably make the dosing cabinets not as tall, slightly shorter and longer, and it would give us a little bit more room where the CEMs ended up being mounted. But apart from that, that change, I think everything else, if we were to replicate that vessel, we would go with our previous design. But a good question, thank you. DV attack, yeah, that's right.
Any other questions from the audience? Well, once again, yes, please.
Okay, to repeat that question, he's basically asking when we change crews or have a new crew get on the boat, do we have to do more training, and how long would that take? Fortunately, we have a regular crew on that boat, and we picked one of our top crews from the whole company to be on that boat. So we haven't had, we have the captain, the relief captain, and regular pilot. So they're all three on there. You know, at any given time, there's one of them on there that has the knowledge, that's already trained. And I'm sure in the future we probably will have a trip pilot or a guy from another boat have to be on there, and we rely heavily on the captain and relief captains to brief, you know, anyone coming, and then the deckhands, the regular deckhands and mates, they should be up to speed as well. So. Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So even the initial when Thompson came down, they spent time with the guys in the engine room, and I was there for about 2 hours, but and you know, they were in and out during sea trial and everything else. I'm sure they were asking questions with that, but I would think that I mean, you keep in mind the engine's still the same, you know, engines that we have everywhere else, and the DEF system is really the only difference here. And it's so far, it looks like it's taking care of itself, which we hope it always does. And even if it went down completely, we have to notify the EPA, but we can still operate with reliable engines. So that helps ease their minds too a little bit on the boats.
I kind of wanted to lend an answer to that. So as a supplier, what we've done is several of the initial fills, we've had training sessions with the crews, with the personnel in the office, with I say multiple crews. So not only did we have the training session, how to load, not necessarily on the maintenance side, but how to load, what to look for, what to do when you spill, the PPE requirements and all that. We've gone out on those initial fills and had that training. And then subsequently, after the refills, we've done the same thing. Our guys are trained to give train the trainer class. They've taken train the trainer classes. So they'll go on board the customer's vessel, your vessel, and not necessarily back to the maintenance issues, but at least the hookups, what to look for, when to watch it, when to alert when there's an issue. So you got to handle it just like you. So the question is, what do you do if there's a spill? You handle it. It's a hazardous product. You handle it just like you do with the Coast Guard. Now, it's 67.5% or 60% water. It's clear. What does the Coast Guard do from there? Our experience has been that they've not followed through with a fine. They've followed through with a warning letter. But again, you would do the same thing you do with any other spill. It has to be reported.
Yeah, I would echo that. We're fortunate we haven't had that problem up to this point. Like Tony said, we've done a good job proactively in making our crew members comfortable with distribution of the product, but we would treat it in a similar format just as any other spill, trigger our response plan and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, some comments were made with regard to sensitivity to purity of the depth. Does the dosing skid have a purity monitor or sensitivity that can tell you it has contaminated depth?
No. To repeat the question is, does the dosing system monitor the purity of the DEF? It does not. So we encourage. Actually, we have a Caterpillar. Is it a refractometer, or the instrument for measuring the concentration? The DEF the urea concentration itself. Any kind of impurities that are, let's say it's a batch of DEF that's made with non-deionized water, the system will not catch that. It's going to dose based on that NOx conversion efficiency that we talked about earlier, and the impurities will manifest themselves in the system. So probably some inspections of the SCR catalyst would reveal that as well.
Yeah, just to build on that, highlighting kind of the dedicated equipment, right? Pumps, hoses, nozzles, tanks, it's all specifically designed and dedicated to the DEF product. So the likelihood of that is very, very minute.
And again, from a supplier standpoint, we encourage it. We've got one client that does take a sample and sometimes sends it off for analysis, sometimes doesn't. We've got another one that does not take a sample. So it's really up to, that company's procedure. But I would ask, I say this not only from a DEF standpoint, but from a supplier standpoint, that you should know your supplier. You should know what kind of quality you're getting, and you should question some of that stuff if you've seen some hoses lying around that don't look, as David said, dedicated, or pumps or meters, whatever it may be, that are dedicated to that product, because it is very sensitive.
Thank you for the question. Not quite sure I fully understood the question. Are you saying if there's a condensate forming in the urea tanks? Yeah. Yeah, good point. So the DEF does have a shelf life, and its characteristics will change with time, and there is some level of whatever condensate forms. It's born from that urea itself, right? So just going back to the point that Tony had made earlier, our system is designed it's a closed loop system that actually compensates for urea of varying concentration levels. So if you're starting with 40% and it has, call it the efficacy of 38%, right? The system compensates for that. So you don't have alarms, you don't have shutdowns, you don't have anything reportable. The system compensates for the urea quality in that range, and then if let's say someone dilutes it with water and you have that kind of a spill, the system will pick that up and flash an alarm it'll flash a urea quality alarm, a DEF quality alarm.
Well, if that's the last question from the audience, I would want to once again thank our panel presenters with applause here. And then wish everyone a good rest of your day. Enjoy lunch. Good to be with you all, and travel safe when you head home. Appreciate it.